The Search for Lost Species. This is a reimagining of the game The Search for Planet X, which is a game that I enjoyed very much, and so I was very excited when I saw that we had another version, which frankly just gives the game the opportunity for even prettier art, because now we have a landscape that we're traveling, and we have animals, and we have cards, and it's just very nice. So I think that being here, exploring an island and looking for a lost pieces is just more thematically and visually prettier than looking for a lost planet in space. The idea is still the same, that you're gonna have to use your phone, and you're going to download the app, and then you launch the scenario, and the app will generate a map basically by placing these basic animals, the loris, the couscous. No, I don't know how to pronounce couscous, but I pronounce couscous because couscous is delicious. Toads and python, they are going to be placed somewhere in there. Then the app is also going to create 5 truly empty areas in an area that looks empty but contains the lost species. And so the only way of figuring out which one is that one is by using logic and based on the rules in which things are placed. There are different species that you may be looking for. Maybe in a game we're looking for the Atembros long-beaked echidna, or for the Arrow flying fox, and so on and so forth, each with its own rule, as you can see there at the bottom. So as we set up the game, we're also going to input in the app what is the lost species that we're doing, because the app needs to take that into account as it creates the pattern, which is invisible, of course. You will have to figure out where everything is, which hex has the toad, or the lorry, or the python, etc., etc., which one looks empty, and then which one is true empty, and which one contains the lost species. So, you set up the game, you launch the app, and interesting enough, you can even choose for different levels of difficulty, because the level of difficulty will determine how many clues you get at the beginning. So with players with different levels of experience, you can have somebody starting at a higher, easier level, somebody at a harder level. Very neat. Another thing is that the game is about nature and ecology and the beauty and wonder of the animal world, and it also seems to have an ecological theme behind the production. So everything is in paper, cardboard, or wood. There is no plastic, to the point that also the game didn't come in shrink. It had those little papery kind of stickers on the side, to the point that there are these like envelopes to place the game pieces for some of the shared game pieces, and then for each player you have an envelope with the components for that play, and that is really neat. And I worried about how are they're gonna open in the box and everything's gonna get scattered. No, it doesn't. These paper envelopes work really well, and it's just as good. So each player will have 2 explorers. One goes on the action track there, and one will go on the board, and the app will tell you where you place it. You will have this tile here, which is only for your reference, because you will have your map where you will make your notes, trying to figure out where things are, and the 4 lorries always form exactly the shape. So if you find that there is a lorry here, for example, then this helps you figure out where the whole flock might be. Then you have a village token and a camera token. These are actions that you can only take from time to time. Once you use it, you spend the token, and then you need to wait for a while until you get it back, so you don't overuse them. And then we have these other tokens that players use when they're trying to score points by guessing where things are. We'll see what that means. So, players will activate in a specific order, as in several games that we've seen in the past. The player who is last on the order track will go to activate. So right now purple gets to activate, and they select one of the actions on the app that will move their character by a number of spaces, and now it's that player's turn. Suppose they take an action that brings them there, and so on and so forth. Now I see there is this like big researcher here that goes on those, always goes on those brown spaces there. And once everybody passed that, now it's time for the quote-unquote brown player to go. And so they move to the next space and they trigger the actions on the space in which they were. I'm going to show you one closer so it's easier, so you get a sense of what that means. Say, for example, when the non-playing explorer passes that space, then players will get to collect their village tokens they may have placed in the village. Also, they need to make their guesses. Remember these tokens? This is when that all look the same on one side and have different animals on the other side. This is when players can try to make guesses about what they think is in different spaces. Suppose that I'm the yellow player and I believe that there is a toad there. Then in this phase I can place a toad token there and I mark it with the corresponding number there. This is because from the time you place them to the time you check them, some time may pass. For example, when this space is activated, then we check the tokens with the number 2 that may have been placed down earlier. And suppose that that is the case. Oh, look, somebody had placed down a 2, so now is the time to check if indeed there is a lorry in there. You check the app and you ask, hey app, what's up? Is there a lorry in there? If you're correct, you get to place that token there. So now everybody knows that there is a lorry there, including you, but also you get an advantage, you get to score points, so that is pretty sweet. And so this is the basic things that you have here, as this will trigger certain phases of the game. This means a conference, so you look in the app and you click on the corresponding conference and there's information that is available to everybody. And so what are the main actions that you take, that you ask the app for? You can move by land, so you can move up to 3 spaces. See, there are mountains. You can't just move across the mountains too hard, but you can move 1, 2, 3. And then you can ask about an animal, and it will tell the app about an animal, and it will tell you how many of that animal are in a certain spot. For example, suppose in your path, how many you saw. Suppose, for example, I did move 1, 2, and 3 and asked for the lorry, and it tells me there are 3 lorry there. Well, there is only one way in which 1, 2, 3 the lorry could go, and now I know that these 4 contain lorries. Other things a little trickier, but that's where you'll become very familiar with the rules that regulate. For example, this one here, there are 3 on the board, and there are always 1 or 2 areas from both of them, so they're kind of like very close. So it could not be, say, 1 here, and 1 there. Although there would be 2 spaces from one another, they are not from both of each other. And so it could be 1, 2, 3. Again, if those 3 spaces that I did, there were 2 of those, that tells me something, but by itself, I need to work more on that. Toads, they like to be breezy. They like to have some space around them. They're always adjacent to at least 2 true empty spaces. And the Python is not going to be adjacent to this little guy here. Other than that, the Python is not too picky. So that's how you obtain information, say by moving, and that's how you should try to digest information. Other actions you can take, you can travel by boat. You travel further, but you only travel on the coast. You can move by 4 to 6 spaces. Actually, you have to travel at least 4, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and again you ask for an animal, it tells you how many spaces that you visited have that animal. You can go to a village, one of these spaces here, and one of the advantages of going to a village is, for example, that you can take one of these cards, a very nice art, and it will give you different kinds of advantages. You can place your camera. And then it tells you for sure what is in that location, but the camera trap takes a lot of time. So that means on that track, you will not activate quite as often, and also you don't get it back right away. And of course, the action that you will want to take at some point is to try to guess the lost species. When you guess the lost species, if you're correct, you don't win the game automatically, but you do score points, and that also triggers the end of the game. And at the end of the game, we'll score points based on things such as mainly how many animals you have identified in different areas of the board. And the player with the highest score at that point wins the game. The search for lost species can also be played solitaire, which is how I played it, and you play against an AI. And if you watch my videos, you know that when there is an AI in a board game, I'm gonna use it only if it's very simple and lean. If I have to take more stats for the AI than for myself, then I play multiplayer solo. I just control both sides. But here the AI works very well because lo and behold, the algorithm takes care of all of the extra steps behind the scenes, and you just implement the effect of the actions. The AI really likes to go to the village and collect those cards, which also creates a sense of scarcity that if you were playing against other players, they would be collecting those cards. Also just scores points for those, which seems that's okay. Like unfair, not true. The effect is to create a nice challenge. So it really feels like you're playing against another human opponent that plays very fast and doesn't take any time at all to make their decisions, which is pretty much ideal. Almost makes me think like I don't have that much of a rush to playing against human opponents when a lot of that would mean extra downtime. Now of course, if they are doing their thing, they are creating, they're sharing information, they're placing those tokens, that helps me also. But frankly, I prefer a tough solitaire challenge with no downtime than the risk of downtime. Also, I don't want to be the downtime person because these logical puzzles are very tough for me. I don't know for you, but I like to take my sweet time. And I know myself, I know that if I was playing against other people, there would be possibly times where I make subpar decisions because I feel guilty that I'm slowing down the game. So the solitaire option for me is absolutely perfect, and I loved it. I just loved it. Also, again, the game is pretty fast that way. For playing with 4 players, I assume it would take longer. And sometimes I realize at the end of the game that I made a crucial, fatal mistake early on, and the entire game I had no chance of winning whatsoever against the AI. But that's okay because it took me less than an hour, or sometimes even less than that. If I was sitting there for a long time with 3 other players, and I realized that I've been sitting there for more than an hour with no chance of winning, I guess that may be annoying. But if you know yourself and you know your players, how much it takes them to grok these puzzles, then you know if it's good for you. But again, another thing is that as a solo, so a 2-player game against a very efficient AI, it works perfectly. And you have so many other ways also of adjusting the difficulty between the board that is double-sided. There's the other side is tougher, between the fact that you can choose your starting level of difficulties in the app, and different players can select that. It's awesome. I like that. And again, I really like the logical puzzles, which are tough for me, possibly more than for most other people. But I enjoyed the challenge. The variety is very nice. But of course, in the long run, the Python's always working the same way. But I think you're gonna have a lot of different implementations of the same idea. The most natural comparison, of course, is with Planet X. And this game showed me all the things that I already liked in Planet X, with just a production that allows for prettier art and a somehow more immersive theme. Well, you're walking on the island, you're walking around those mountains. It just feels more immersive. It's just thematically more engaging to me than looking at the dark cold of space and looking for that planet. I love it. I love the production. I love the implementation. Games with apps. You never know if the app is gonna be fiddly or not, but this one is very, very smooth and never had any problem. So I enjoyed the puzzle. I enjoyed a puzzle that is so challenging from the point of view of brain power, and yet it is just embodied in a board game, in a physical production that is beautiful to look at, that is fun to manipulate, it's nice to go around the island. I love it. I love the production, I love the rules, I love the gameplay, and I love the solitaire implementation. I can't think of a bad thing to say about the search for lost pieces, so instead of raving about it for 10 more minutes, I'll tell you, I love it.